This is not a motivational video. This is not encouragement. And this message is not for everyone. This is for the one who stayed patient when nothing moved, for the one who kept praying when answers stayed silent, for the one who watched doors close while others were moving ahead. If the last few years felt heavy, if life slowed down without explanation, if people disappeared, plans collapsed, and everything went quiet at once, listen carefully. According to Ibn Arabi, silence is not punishment. It is not abandonment. It is the final phase before Allah changes everything. Allah does not prepare His servants in public. He prepares them where no one is watching, in isolation, in delay, in pain, in silence. What you thought was loss was actually alignment. What you thought was delay was protection. And what felt like being forgotten was Allah focusing on you. This is not the time to rush. This is not the time to explain yourself. And this is not the time to panic. Because when Allah goes quiet, it is not because He has stopped working. It is because the most important work has begun. Stay with me. Because what you are about to hear will explain everything you've been living through. 1. Silence is not absence, it is divine focus. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest misunderstandings of the human soul is assuming that Allah is absent when life becomes quiet. When movement slows, when answers delay, when nothing seems to change on the surface, people begin to panic. They assume something has gone wrong. They assume they have been forgotten. But Ibn Arabi taught the opposite. Silence is never emptiness. Silence is divine focus. When Allah removes noise from your life, He is not withdrawing His attention, He is concentrating it. Just as a craftsman grows silent before completing a delicate work, Allah quiets your world when something precise and meaningful is being formed within you. Loud phases shape skills, but silent phases shape the soul. And elevation does not begin in chaos, it begins in stillness. Ibn Arabi explained that most people only recognize Allah's work when it becomes visible. They expect signs, movement, results, and reassurance. But divine action does not start with outcomes. It starts with alignment. Before Allah changes your circumstances, He reshapes your inner state. Before doors open, attachments are loosened. Before clarity arrives, certainty is stripped away. This inner restructuring cannot happen in noise. It requires quiet. It requires space. It requires moments where the soul can no longer distract itself. That is why silence feels uncomfortable. In silence, there is no distraction from fear, doubt, or unanswered questions. The ego becomes restless because it cannot measure progress. But Ibn Arabi taught that this discomfort is proof that real work is happening. When Allah wants to transform you deeply, He removes external stimulation so the soul is forced to confront itself. This is not abandonment, it is intimacy. Many people mistake divine silence for rejection. They say, if Allah loved me, something would be happening. Ibn Arabi warned against this thinking. He taught that Allah is often most active when He appears most quiet. The absence of visible change does not mean stagnation, it means preparation. Just as seeds grow underground before breaking the surface, the soul develops unseen before elevation becomes visible. In these quiet phases, Allah trains qualities that cannot be learned in success. Patience without applause, faith without proof, trust without reassurance. Anyone can believe when life is loud with blessings. But silence reveals the quality of belief. Do you trust Allah only when He speaks through outcomes, or also when He speaks through stillness? Ibn Arabi emphasized that silence strips dependency. When nothing moves, you can no longer lean on momentum. When answers do not come, you can no longer rely on clarity. When people stop understanding you, you can no longer depend on validation. And slowly, quietly, reliance shifts from creation to creator, from outcomes to obedience, from control to surrender. This is why silence often comes before major shifts. If Allah answered immediately, the soul would remain immature. If results came quickly, arrogance or attachment would grow. Delay humbles intention. Stillness purifies motive. Silence ensures that when elevation arrives, it does not corrupt the heart. Ibn Arabi taught that many people fail not because they are weak, but because they misunderstand silence. They rush to fill it. They distract themselves. They abandon patience. They assume Allah has stopped working, and they leave the workshop before the work is complete. But those who endure silence without panic emerge transformed. Their calm becomes depth. Their restraint becomes wisdom. Their trust becomes unshakable. As you approach this phase in your life, especially now, as things feel quiet, slow, or unclear, understand this: Allah has not paused your story. He is editing it. He is removing unnecessary scenes. He is refining the message, and editing happens in silence. The world teaches you to fear stillness. Ibn Arabi taught you to respect it, because silence is where the soul is rebuilt without interference. No envy can reach you there. No pressure can distort you there. No comparison can weaken you there. Silence protects what is being formed. So, if your life has gone quiet emotionally, spiritually, socially, do not rush to escape it. Do not label it as loss. Do not interpret it as punishment. According to Ibn Arabi, silence is the final focus before manifestation. What Allah builds in silence stands firmly when it appears. And when movement returns, when doors open, when clarity arrives, when the shift becomes visible, you will realize something profound. The quiet was not empty. It was full of divine work. 2. Delay means the soul is still being shaped. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the most painful misunderstandings a believer carries is the belief that delay means rejection. When prayers remain unanswered, when progress feels slow, when life does not move forward the way it should, the heart quietly begins to doubt. Doubt timing, doubt worth. Sometimes even doubt Allah's attention. Ibn Arabi taught that this way of thinking is not only inaccurate, it is spiritually dangerous, because delay is not a sign that Allah has said no. Delay is a sign that the soul is still being shaped. Allah does not work according to urgency. He works according to readiness. What you desire and what you are prepared to carry are not always the same thing. Ibn Arabi explained that if Allah were to give you everything you asked for the moment you asked, it would often destroy you instead of elevating you. Some blessings carry responsibility. Some openings require maturity. Some answers demand stability of heart. Delay exists not to frustrate you, but to protect you from receiving something before you are capable of holding it without losing yourself. Many people believe they are delayed because they are unworthy. Ibn Arabi rejected this belief completely. He taught that delay is often proof of divine care. Allah delays what is precious. Cheap things arrive quickly. Sacred things arrive carefully, slowly, with preparation. Just as fruit is not harvested before it ripens, the soul is not exposed to certain outcomes until it has developed patience, humility, and discipline. Delay reshapes intention. When something does not come easily, the ego is tested. Are you seeking this for validation or for alignment with Allah? Are you pursuing it out of fear or out of purpose? Ibn Arabi taught that Allah uses delay to purify motives. Many people would misuse what they asked for if they received it too soon. Delay removes arrogance, entitlement, and emotional desperation. It teaches the soul to want without demanding, to hope without clinging, and to trust without control. Waiting also teaches endurance. In delay, you learn to live without guarantees. You learn to move forward even when results are invisible. This builds a strength that instant success never could. Ibn Arabi emphasized that souls who rise too quickly often collapse just as fast, but souls shaped through waiting develop inner balance. They remain steady whether life gives or withholds. This steadiness is what allows blessings to stay when they finally arrive. Another reason delay hurts is comparison. You see others moving ahead, you see doors opening for them, and the heart whispers, "Why not me?" Ibn Arabi warned that comparison poisons patience. Allah does not work with one universal timeline. Each soul has its own rhythm, its own tests, its own preparation. Measuring your journey against someone else's is like judging a seed for not being a tree yet. Growth happens underground first, and underground growth cannot be rushed. Ibn Arabi taught that delay also creates detachment. When things do not arrive immediately, you slowly stop depending on outcomes for peace. You begin to live without anchoring your happiness to a single event, person, or result. This emotional independence is critical. A soul that depends on outcomes becomes fragile. A soul that depends on Allah becomes firm. Delay shifts reliance from "when will it happen" to "Allah knows." Many people abandon their path during delay. They give up prayer. They give up consistency. They give up trust. Ibn Arabi described this as leaving the field just before harvest. Delay is not the sign to quit. It is the sign to deepen sincerity. What continues despite delay is what is truly aligned with Allah. What disappears under delay was never rooted. As you move through this phase where effort feels unrewarded and progress feels slow, understand this clearly. Allah is not ignoring your prayers. He is answering them in a form you cannot yet see. He is adjusting circumstances, aligning people, removing obstacles, and strengthening your inner world simultaneously. Divine answers are not always loud. Many arrive disguised as waiting. When the moment finally comes, when the door opens, when clarity appears, when movement begins, you will notice something important. You will not panic. You will not rush. You will not lose yourself. Because the delay did its work. It prepared you to receive without arrogance and endure without fear. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah's greatest mercy is not giving you everything you want immediately, but giving you exactly what you need at the moment you are able to carry it. Delay is not denial. It is divine intelligence at work. So if you are waiting right now, do not interpret it as failure. Do not see it as punishment. See it as shaping. Something in you is still being prepared. And when preparation is complete, what arrives will not overwhelm you. It will fit you. 3. Pain is a language, not a punishment. According to Ibn Arabi, pain is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the life of a believer. When hardship strikes, the first instinct of the human heart is to ask, "What did I do wrong?" Pain is often interpreted as punishment, abandonment, or divine displeasure. But Ibn Arabi taught something far deeper and far more comforting. Pain is not meant to destroy the soul, it is meant to speak to it. Pain is a language Allah uses when comfort can no longer teach you what you need to learn. Comfort keeps illusions alive. Pain removes them. When life is easy, false attachments remain hidden. Ego feels safe. Dependence on people, outcomes, and control grows quietly. But pain exposes truth. It strips away what is unstable. It reveals where the heart was leaning on something other than Allah. Ibn Arabi explained that pain does not arrive to weaken you, it arrives to awaken you. It interrupts the soul when it is drifting toward complacency or false security. Ibn Arabi compared pain to fire applied to metal. Fire does not destroy the steel, it removes its weakness. Without heat, the metal remains brittle. Without hardship, the soul remains untested. Pain burns away arrogance, entitlement, and illusion. It forces humility, it forces reflection, and most importantly, it forces sincerity. When pain enters your life, your relationship with Allah changes. Du'as become real, reliance becomes honest, faith stops being theoretical and becomes lived. Many people believe that if Allah loved them, He would protect them from pain. Ibn Arabi rejected this idea. He taught that intense trials are often signs of divine attention, not abandonment. Allah does not invest deeply in every soul. The ones He intends to elevate are often refined through difficulty. Pain is selective. Not everyone is given heavy trials, only those capable of transformation through them. Pain also teaches detachment. Loss teaches you that nothing in this world is permanent. Disappointment teaches discernment, who to trust, what to value, where not to attach your heart. Emotional pain teaches reliance on Allah alone, because everything else eventually fails. Ibn Arabi emphasized that pain breaks the illusion of control. It reminds the soul that safety does not come from people, plans, or possessions. It comes from Allah. Another reason pain feels unbearable is because it arrives without explanation. There is no immediate clarity, no visible reward, no guarantee of relief. But Ibn Arabi taught that pain does not need explanation to have purpose. Its lesson unfolds gradually, sometimes years later, sometimes only after the soul has matured enough to understand it. What matters is not understanding pain immediately, but allowing it to shape you without poisoning your heart with resentment. Pain also reveals the quality of faith. Anyone can believe when life is comfortable, but pain tests whether belief remains when ease disappears. Ibn Arabi taught that faith proven in hardship is stronger than faith declared in comfort. When you continue to pray while hurting, continue to trust while confused, continue to choose patience while wounded, something powerful forms inside you, a depth that cannot be shaken later. One of the greatest dangers Ibn Arabi warned about was bitterness. Pain that is resisted turns into bitterness. Pain that is accepted turns into wisdom. Two people can suffer the same hardship. One becomes resentful, the other becomes refined. The difference is not the pain itself, but the relationship with Allah during it. Pain is meant to pass through you, not settle inside you. When it completes its work, it leaves, but only after leaving strength behind. As you reflect on the pain you have endured, emotional, spiritual, physical, understand this: nothing you suffered was random. Nothing was wasted. Every tear carried instruction. Every night of confusion shaped your perception. Every heartbreak refined your priorities. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah never wounds the soul without placing healing inside the wound itself. And when pain completes its lesson, something remarkable happens. The soul becomes softer without being weak, stronger without being harsh, aware without being fearful. You walk forward with empathy instead of judgment, wisdom instead of naivety, and calm instead of urgency. This is the gift pain leaves behind. So if you are hurting right now, do not rush to escape it. Do not label it as punishment. Listen to it. Ask what it is teaching. Ask what it is removing. Ask what it is preparing you for. According to Ibn Arabi, pain is not the enemy of the soul. It is one of Allah's most precise teachers. And once its lesson is complete, it will leave quietly, having shaped you into someone stronger than you were before. 4. When Allah removes people, He is protecting your destiny. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the most painful experiences for the human heart is separation. When people leave your life, friends drift away, relationships collapse, familiar faces disappear, the soul immediately assumes failure. It asks, "What did I do wrong?" Or, "Why wasn't I enough?" Ibn Arabi taught that this interpretation is often false. Separation is not always a loss. Sometimes it is divine protection. Not everyone who walks with you is meant to walk where you are going. Some people are assigned to a season, not a lifetime. They come to teach, to test, to awaken, or to reveal something about yourself. When their role is complete, Allah removes them not to punish you, but to prevent stagnation. Keeping people beyond their purpose can quietly delay destiny. Ibn Arabi explained that attachment clouds perception. When you are emotionally attached, you cannot see clearly. You overlook patterns. You ignore red flags. You tolerate what slowly drains your spirit. Allah sees what you cannot: intentions hidden behind smiles, envy masked as concern, limitations disguised as loyalty. When Allah removes someone, He is often removing a future wound you never saw coming. Separation hurts because it breaks familiarity. The heart prefers what is known even when it is harmful. Ibn Arabi taught that growth requires rupture. Comfort rarely produces elevation. When people leave, you are forced to stand without leaning. You are forced to discover who you are without constant emotional support. This feels like abandonment, but it is actually preparation. Many people beg Allah to return what He removed. Ibn Arabi warned against this. He taught that asking Allah to restore what He separated you from is often asking Him to delay your own expansion. What left your life could not grow with you. It could not carry the weight of where you are being taken. And had it stayed, it would have limited you subtly, slowly, but surely. Another reason Allah removes people is to protect intention. Some people benefit from your weakness, not your strength. They feel comfortable when you doubt yourself, when you are available without boundaries, when you remain small. As you begin to grow, these dynamics become unsafe. Allah removes such people quietly, often without explanation, because explanation would invite resistance. Separation happens suddenly because hesitation would weaken resolve. Ibn Arabi emphasized that divine separation always creates space. Space for clarity, space for healing, space for new alignment. When people leave, silence follows. And in that silence, you begin to hear yourself again. Your intuition sharpens, your standards rise, your boundaries form. You stop confusing attention with connection. You stop mistaking familiarity for loyalty. Separation also teaches self-worth. When people leave, the ego whispers that you are unlovable. Ibn Arabi taught that this is a test. Will you measure your worth by who stayed or by who you became? Allah removes people so your value is no longer dependent on external validation. The soul that survives separation without bitterness becomes internally anchored, and an anchored soul cannot be easily manipulated. It is important to understand this truth. Allah never subtracts without purpose. Every removal is precise. Every separation is intentional. If someone left, it is because they could not travel further with you without harming your growth. What belongs to your next phase requires a lighter heart, clearer vision, and stronger boundaries. As you approach this phase of life where connections have thinned and relationships have shifted, do not rush to replace what was lost. Do not fill the space just to avoid discomfort. Ibn Arabi taught that rushing after separation leads to repeating the same lesson with different faces. Let the space do its work. Let clarity mature. Eventually, new people arrive, not to complete you, but to complement the version of you that no longer depends on everyone to survive. These connections feel different. They do not drain. They do not confuse. They do not demand you shrink. They align naturally because you are no longer carrying unnecessary weight. So, if people have left your life recently, understand this clearly. Allah did not remove them because you were unworthy. He removed them because your destiny required protection. What left you could not go where Allah is taking you, and what is coming will require the version of you that learned to walk forward even when others did not. 5. Allah builds the strongest souls in isolation. According to Ibn Arabi, isolation is one of the most misunderstood stages of spiritual growth. When life becomes quiet, when companionship fades, when familiar voices disappear, the human heart assumes something is wrong. Loneliness feels like abandonment. Silence feels like loss. But Ibn Arabi taught that isolation is not a punishment sent to weaken the soul. It is a sacred condition designed to strengthen it. Allah isolates those He intends to elevate beyond ordinary levels. Noise keeps the soul distracted. Crowds blur perception. Constant interaction prevents self-confrontation. When Allah removes the noise, He creates a space where the soul can no longer escape itself. This is uncomfortable, even frightening, but it is necessary. Growth that lasts cannot be built in constant company. It is forged in solitude. Ibn Arabi explained that isolation strips dependency. As long as the soul leans on people for reassurance, approval, or emotional stability, its strength remains conditional. But when those supports are removed, something deeper awakens. You learn to stand without being held. You learn to breathe without reassurance. You learn to trust Allah without witnesses. This is not weakness. This is training. Isolation also reveals truth. When people step away, patterns become visible. You begin to see who drained you, who benefited from your availability, who stayed only when you were useful. Ibn Arabi taught that clarity is born in distance. In solitude, illusions collapse. The heart becomes honest with itself. Excuses fall away. Self-deception no longer survives. Many people rush to escape isolation. They fill the silence with noise, distractions, or unhealthy connections. Ibn Arabi warned against this. He taught that escaping isolation too early leads to dependence, while enduring it patiently leads to authority. Authority over the self, not over others, is the highest form of power. A soul that has learned to be alone is not easily manipulated, abandoned, or broken. Isolation reshapes intention. When no one is watching, sincerity is tested. Are you still disciplined when there is no applause? Do you still pray when no one notices? Do you still choose integrity when no one validates you? Ibn Arabi taught that Allah perfects intention in solitude. Public growth attracts ego. Private growth refines the heart. Another hidden gift of isolation is emotional independence. When you are no longer surrounded by constant validation or criticism, your worth stabilizes. Praise no longer intoxicates you. Rejection no longer defines you. You stop performing. You start being. This stability is essential for what comes next. Without it, success would inflate the ego, and responsibility would overwhelm the heart. Ibn Arabi also taught that isolation prepares discernment. When you return to people after solitude, you return differently. You listen more carefully. You tolerate less. You sense misalignment quickly. You no longer confuse attention with care or presence with loyalty. Isolation educates the heart. It teaches boundaries without bitterness and distance without hatred. It is important to understand this truth. Allah does not isolate everyone. He isolates those He wants to protect from becoming dependent on creation. He isolates those whose future requires steadiness. Leadership, responsibility, and spiritual authority cannot rest on fragile foundations. Isolation strengthens the foundation quietly, without witnesses. If you feel alone right now emotionally, socially, spiritually, do not assume you are unloved. Do not assume you are behind. According to Ibn Arabi, Allah often isolates His servants before elevating them so that when they return to the world, they do not lose themselves in it again. You re-enter life not from need, but from strength. When people eventually come back or new people arrive, you will notice the difference. You will no longer cling. You will no longer fear loss. You will choose connection instead of dependence. And this is the sign that isolation has completed its work. So do not rush this phase. Do not numb it. Do not escape it. Let solitude finish shaping you. Let silence strengthen you. What Allah builds in isolation cannot be shaken by crowds later. Isolation is not where you disappear. It is where you are made unbreakable. 6. Confusion means the old identity is dying. According to Ibn Arabi, confusion is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of transition. When life stops making sense, when direction feels blurred, when what once motivated you no longer moves you, the soul assumes it has lost its way. But Ibn Arabi taught that confusion often appears when an old identity can no longer survive. The version of you that carried you this far has reached its limit. Something new is forming, and the old structure is dissolving. Clarity belongs to stable identities. Confusion belongs to transformation. When you are becoming someone new, the old answers no longer fit. The paths that once felt obvious begin to feel wrong. The goals that once excited you feel empty. This disorientation is not punishment, it is shedding. The soul is releasing what it has outgrown. Ibn Arabi explained that Allah does not reveal the next identity before the old one dies. If He did, attachment would form and growth would be compromised. Confusion creates surrender. It forces the soul to let go of certainty, control, and labels. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. This in-between space feels unstable, but it is sacred. Many people panic during confusion. They rush to define themselves again. They cling to old roles, habits, and relationships just to feel grounded. Ibn Arabi warned against this urgency. He taught that rushing through confusion delays rebirth. Just as a seed must break before it grows, the soul must loosen its identity before it can expand. Clinging to the old only prolongs discomfort. Confusion also strips arrogance. When you do not know, humility enters. When plans fail, surrender deepens. When direction fades, reliance shifts from intellect to intuition and from self to Allah. Ibn Arabi believed that this shift is essential. As long as the soul believes it knows the way, it resists guidance. Confusion humbles the heart enough to receive direction when it comes. Another reason confusion feels unbearable is because it removes predictability. The ego thrives on knowing. It fears uncertainty. But Ibn Arabi taught that certainty is not required for faith, trust is. Allah intentionally removes clarity at certain stages so the soul learns to walk with Him, not ahead of Him. When you stop demanding explanations, guidance begins to appear in subtle ways. Confusion also reveals what is no longer aligned. People, environments, and ambitions that once felt comfortable begin to irritate or exhaust you. This is not random. Your inner state has changed and misalignment becomes uncomfortable. Ibn Arabi explained that discomfort is a signal. It tells you where you no longer belong. Confusion sharpens discernment by removing false comfort. In this phase, silence becomes important. Decisions made in confusion often come from fear. Ibn Arabi taught that stillness allows the new identity to form without distortion. When you slow down, observe, and refrain from forcing answers, the soul reorganizes itself naturally. Guidance emerges when the heart is quiet enough to hear it. Eventually, confusion passes, not suddenly, but gently. One day, without drama, clarity returns. Not the old clarity, a deeper one, a quieter one. You begin to know what to keep, what to release, and where to walk next. And when this happens, you realize the confusion was not chaos, it was restructuring. If you are confused right now, do not label yourself as lost. Do not panic. Do not rush. According to Ibn Arabi, confusion is the threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the doorway to expansion. Let the old identity dissolve with patience. Let uncertainty humble you. Let silence protect you while the new form takes shape. What comes next will not require effort. It will feel aligned. Because confusion does not mean you are broken. It means you are being rebuilt. 7. True power begins when you fully surrender to Allah. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest illusions of the human soul is believing that control equals strength. From a young age, we are taught to plan, to secure, to predict, to manage outcomes. And when life does not follow our expectations, anxiety takes over. The heart tightens. Fear grows. The soul exhausts itself trying to force what is not yet ready. Ibn Arabi taught that this struggle is not power, it is resistance. True power begins only when resistance ends. Surrender does not mean giving up effort. It means releasing the obsession with outcomes. Ibn Arabi explained that Allah never asks you to control results. He asks you to act with sincerity and trust His wisdom. The moment you confuse responsibility with control, you begin carrying weight that was never yours. And that weight eventually crushes peace. Surrender returns the burden to where it belongs with Allah. Many people fear surrender because they think it means losing agency. Ibn Arabi rejected this fear. He taught that surrender actually restores clarity. When the heart stops fighting destiny, it sees more clearly. Decisions become simpler. Anxiety loosens its grip. You act where you are meant to act, and you stop interfering where Allah is working. This alignment creates flow, and flow is where divine assistance appears. Control creates tension because it demands certainty before movement. Surrender allows movement without certainty. Ibn Arabi taught that faith is not walking with full visibility. It is walking with trust when visibility is limited. Allah intentionally keeps parts of the future unseen, so the heart remains connected to Him, not addicted to guarantees. When you surrender, you stop demanding explanations and start receiving guidance quietly, intuitively, precisely. Another hidden gift of surrender is emotional stability. When you release control, resentment fades. You stop blaming people. You stop replaying the past. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, the heart shifts to, "What is Allah teaching me through this?" This shift transforms suffering into meaning, and meaning dissolves fear. Ibn Arabi also taught that surrender dismantles ego. The ego wants recognition, speed, and validation. It wants to be seen as capable and in charge. Surrender humbles the ego without humiliating it. You stop proving, you stop performing, you stop comparing, you become grounded, calm, unshakable. And from this inner stillness, correct action naturally emerges. Many breakthroughs are delayed because people insist on understanding everything before trusting anything. Ibn Arabi warned that this mindset blocks divine openings. Allah does not reveal the entire path because doing so would remove reliance. The unseen is intentional. It trains the heart to walk with Allah rather than ahead of Him. When you surrender, you accept not knowing, and in that acceptance, guidance accelerates. Surrender also protects timing. When people force outcomes, they often receive what they asked for, but cannot sustain it. Ibn Arabi taught that forced movement invites chaos. Aligned movement invites ease. Doors that open through surrender do not require panic to walk through. They feel natural. They feel steady. They do not demand you abandon your values or compromise your soul. If you look closely, you will notice something. The moments when you were most at peace were not when you controlled everything, but when you finally let go. When you said, "I've done what I can. I leave the rest with Allah." That moment of release is not weakness. It is strength returning to its source. As you move through this phase of life, especially as things feel uncertain, delayed, or unresolved, understand this clearly. Allah is not waiting for you to figure everything out. He is waiting for you to trust Him enough to stop fighting what He is arranging. Surrender is cooperation with divine intelligence. When you surrender fully, fear loses authority. The future no longer feels threatening because it is no longer yours to carry alone. You move forward with effort, but without desperation, with hope, but without attachment, with discipline, but without panic. This balance is the mark of a mature soul. According to Ibn Arabi, the soul that surrenders does not fall behind. It arrives exactly where it needs to be at the exact moment it can handle it. Nothing is wasted, nothing is delayed, nothing is lost. So do not confuse surrender with weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because when Allah takes over, what unfolds is always greater than what the soul could have planned. 8. Allah prepares you in secret away from eyes and applause. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest protections Allah gives His servants is secrecy. People often believe that growth must be visible to be real. They assume progress must be announced, witnessed, and validated. Ibn Arabi taught the opposite. The most powerful transformations happen where no one is watching. Allah prepares His servants in secret because exposure too early invites interference. Public growth feeds the ego. Private growth refines the soul. When development happens quietly, intention remains clean. There is no pressure to perform, no fear of judgment, no temptation to impress. Ibn Arabi explained that Allah hides His servants while shaping them so their hearts are not corrupted by praise before they are ready to carry responsibility. What matures in silence remains stable when it appears. Many people feel frustrated because their efforts go unseen. They ask, "Why does no one notice my struggle?" Ibn Arabi taught that being unseen is not neglect, it is protection. Visibility attracts comparison, envy, and distraction. When Allah plans to elevate someone properly, He shields their becoming from unnecessary eyes. He removes the audience so the work can be completed without distortion. Secrecy also protects timing. When plans are shared too early, they become vulnerable to doubt, opinions, and pressure. Ibn Arabi warned that premature exposure weakens destiny. Words drain energy. Explanation invites resistance. Allah hides certain processes so they can mature without interruption. That is why some of your biggest internal shifts happened without witnesses, no applause, no encouragement. Just endurance. Allah also prepares you in secret to test sincerity. When no one is watching, the question becomes clear. Would you still show up if no one ever praised you? Ibn Arabi taught that sincerity is proven in solitude. The soul that remains disciplined without recognition is the soul Allah can trust with influence later. If motivation survives invisibility, it will remain pure invisibility. Another reason secrecy feels heavy is because the ego craves reassurance. It wants signs of progress. It wants confirmation. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah withholds reassurance intentionally during preparation phases. This trains the soul to rely on Allah alone. When reassurance comes only from results or people, faith remains conditional. But when reassurance comes from trust, faith becomes firm. Secrecy also sharpens inner authority. When you are not constantly explaining yourself, you conserve energy. When you are not defending your path, you protect clarity. Ibn Arabi explained that silence strengthens presence. People who rise quietly do not need to convince anyone of their worth. Their calm speaks for them. Their steadiness commands respect without effort. Many people fear being forgotten. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah never forgets His servants, but He often hides them. Hiding is not abandonment, it is incubation. Just as seeds grow underground before breaking the surface, souls develop unseen before elevation becomes visible. What emerges too early cannot withstand pressure. What matures in secret stands firm. When the time comes for visibility, it happens naturally, not loudly, not chaotically. Opportunities align without force. Recognition appears without chasing. Ibn Arabi taught that this is the sign of divine preparation. The rise feels effortless because the work was already completed in silence. If your life feels hidden right now, if your growth is unseen, your effort unnoticed, your struggle private, do not assume it is meaningless. According to Ibn Arabi, Allah prepares His strongest servants away from noise so that when they step forward, they do not crumble under attention. Let secrecy do its work. Let silence protect your becoming. What Allah is preparing quietly will stand firmly when revealed. 9. Readiness, not desire, decides when Allah acts. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest illusions people live with is the belief that wanting something deeply means they are ready to receive it. Desire feels intense, urgent, emotional. Readiness, however, is quiet. It is formed slowly, often painfully, through experiences that do not look like progress at all. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah does not move according to how badly you want something. He moves according to how well your soul can carry it without breaking. Many people believe they are late in life. They compare timelines, achievements, and milestones. They see others moving ahead and assume they have been left behind. Ibn Arabi rejected this fear completely. He taught that nothing meant for you can arrive before you are internally prepared to sustain it with humility, balance, and gratitude. If something arrived too early, it would either inflate the ego or overwhelm the heart. Delay, therefore, is not neglect, it is mercy. Readiness is not visible. It is not measured by age, talent, or effort alone. It is measured by inner stability. Can you remain grounded when praised? Can you stay patient when tested again after success? Can you carry responsibility without becoming arrogant? Ibn Arabi taught that Allah withholds certain doors until the soul is emotionally and spiritually stable enough to walk through them without losing itself. This is why preparation often feels unrelated to the outcome you desire. You may be tested with disappointment when you asked for success. You may be given loneliness when you prayed for connection. You may face failure when you wanted confirmation. Ibn Arabi explained that these experiences are not detours, they are conditioning. Allah is strengthening qualities that the future blessing will demand from you. Many people confuse waiting with stagnation. Ibn Arabi taught that waiting is one of the most active forms of divine training. During waiting, the ego softens. Expectations are corrected. Intentions are purified. You learn to work without applause, to trust without proof, and to hope without desperation. These qualities cannot be rushed. They must be lived into the soul. Impatience often signals unreadiness. When the heart demands immediate results, it reveals attachment rather than alignment. Ibn Arabi warned that forcing timing invites chaos. People who receive blessings before readiness often feel anxious, insecure, or empty even after success. They got what they wanted but not what they needed. Allah protects His servants from this by delaying until stability replaces urgency. Readiness also means detachment. When you are overly attached to an outcome, it controls your peace. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah waits until the soul can receive without clinging. When you can accept either outcome with trust, success, or delay, readiness has matured. This is why some blessings arrive only after you stop obsessing over them. Another sign of readiness is discernment. Early in life, people chase everything that looks like opportunity. Later, after preparation, they become selective. Not every open door is entered. Not every offer is accepted. Ibn Arabi taught that discernment is proof of maturity. Allah waits until the soul can choose wisely, not desperately. When readiness is complete, the arrival feels different. There is no panic, no rush, no fear of loss. The blessing fits naturally, like something you have been trained to carry. You do not ask, "Why now?" You understand, "Because now I can hold this." The transition feels smooth because the inner work was already finished. If you are still waiting, understand this clearly. Allah is not slow, He is exact. What is meant for you is not late. It is aligning itself with the version of you that can sustain it. The waiting you resent today may be the very reason you remain steady tomorrow. According to Ibn Arabi, Allah's greatest mercy is not fulfilling every desire immediately, but protecting the soul from receiving what it is not yet ready to handle. When readiness meets divine timing, elevation happens without chaos, without loss, and without regret. So release the anxiety of not yet. Trust the intelligence of delay. Your time will arrive, not when you demand it, but when your soul is strong enough to carry it. 10. The soul must become independent before Allah elevates it. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the final preparations before true elevation is emotional and spiritual independence. Many people believe Allah lifts them while they are still leaning on others. Ibn Arabi taught the opposite. Allah elevates the soul only after it learns how to stand without leaning. Dependence creates fragility. Independence creates stability. And stability is required for anything that must last. In the early stages of life, people survive through support, emotional reassurance, approval, companionship, validation. There is nothing wrong with this. But Ibn Arabi explained that at a certain point, dependence becomes a limitation. When peace depends on people, peace becomes unstable. When confidence depends on praise, confidence collapses under criticism. Allah does not elevate a soul that can be easily shaken, because elevation brings pressure. This is why Allah often removes support systems before major breakthroughs. Friends grow distant. Familiar encouragement disappears. People who once checked on you stop asking. At first, this feels cruel. But Ibn Arabi taught that this stage is necessary. Allah is teaching the soul to draw strength directly from Him, not indirectly through creation. Reliance must shift from people to purpose, from validation to conviction, from comfort to truth. Emotional independence does not mean coldness or isolation. It means stability. It means your inner state is no longer controlled by who stays, who leaves, who understands, or who misunderstands. Ibn Arabi explained that a dependent soul reacts emotionally to every change, while an independent soul responds wisely. Reaction drains energy. Response preserves it. Another reason independence is required before elevation is responsibility. Blessings carry weight. Influence carries expectations. Authority carries accountability. If the soul still seeks reassurance, elevation will create anxiety instead of peace. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah delays certain roles, positions, or openings until the heart no longer needs constant emotional support to function. Independence ensures that success does not become a burden. Independence is often formed through disappointment. When people fail you, when support disappears, when expectations collapse, the soul is forced to adapt. Ibn Arabi taught that disappointment is a teacher. It reveals where you placed too much trust in creation. Each disappointment redirects reliance back to Allah. Slowly, the heart learns to remain calm even when support is inconsistent. This phase is uncomfortable because it feels like abandonment. But Ibn Arabi clarified that Allah does not abandon. He redirects. He removes emotional crutches so the soul can learn to walk on its own. Just as a child must eventually learn to stand without being held, the soul must mature beyond constant reassurance. Another sign of independence forming is silence. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your choices. You stop seeking approval for every decision. Ibn Arabi taught that explanation weakens authority, while clarity strengthens it. When the soul becomes independent, it no longer needs permission to be aligned. Independence also protects against manipulation. A soul that needs people can be controlled by people. A soul anchored in Allah cannot be easily pressured, guilted, or misled. This is critical for elevation. Allah does not place responsibility on a soul that can be swayed by fear of loss or desire for acceptance. When independence is complete, something shifts internally. You still care, but you are no longer controlled. You still connect, but you no longer cling. You still love, but you no longer lose yourself. Ibn Arabi taught that this balance is essential. Without it, blessings become traps instead of gifts. If you are in a phase where you feel unsupported, misunderstood, or emotionally alone, do not rush to fill the gap. According to Ibn Arabi, this is often the final conditioning before Allah entrusts you with more responsibility, more clarity, more impact, more stability. Allah is not making you lonely. He is making you strong. He is not removing people to punish you. He is preparing you to stand firm when pressure increases. When elevation comes, it will not overwhelm you, because you will no longer need others to hold you up. You will already be standing. 11. Quiet elevation is the safest form of rise. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the greatest misunderstandings about success and elevation is the belief that it must be loud to be real. The world celebrates noise. It rewards visibility. It equates recognition with worth. But Ibn Arabi taught a very different truth. What is loud is often unstable, and what is quiet is often deeply rooted. Allah elevates His servants silently, because silence protects what is being raised. Noise attracts attention, but attention attracts interference. When growth becomes visible too early, it invites envy, opinions, pressure, and comparison. Ibn Arabi warned that premature exposure weakens destiny. What is not yet settled should not be announced. What is not yet stabilized should not be displayed. Allah protects His servants by allowing their rise to happen quietly, away from unnecessary eyes. The ego craves witnesses. It wants proof that growth is real. It seeks applause to feel validated. But Ibn Arabi taught that the soul grows strongest when it does not need to be seen. Quiet elevation tests sincerity. Are you still aligned when no one praises you? Are you still disciplined when no one notices? Are you still patient when success does not announce itself? If the answer is yes, the soul is ready for lasting elevation. Quiet elevation also preserves humility. When success arrives slowly and silently, the heart does not inflate. There is no rush of pride, no addiction to validation. Instead, gratitude deepens, awareness sharpens, responsibility is carried with care. Ibn Arabi explained that Allah withholds loud success from those whose hearts could be damaged by it. Silence is not delay, it is protection from corruption. Another reason Allah elevates quietly is stability. Sudden recognition creates emotional imbalance. It introduces fear of loss, pressure to maintain image, and anxiety about expectations. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah prefers steady growth over dramatic rise. What grows steadily can endure storms. What rises suddenly often collapses just as fast. Quiet elevation also strengthens inner authority. When you are not explaining your progress, defending your path, or proving your worth, your presence becomes firm. You no longer chase acknowledgement. You carry calm, and calm carries weight. Ibn Arabi taught that true authority is not loud, it is felt. People sense it without being told. Many people sabotage their own growth by speaking too early. They announce plans before discipline is complete. They reveal goals before patience has been tested. Ibn Arabi warned that words leak energy. When intention is spoken prematurely, momentum weakens. Allah hides His servants so that their strength is not diluted by unnecessary explanation. Silence also teaches detachment from outcomes. When no one is watching, motivation becomes internal. You stop performing for approval. You start acting from alignment. Ibn Arabi believed this shift is essential. A soul dependent on recognition becomes fragile. A soul rooted in Allah remains steady whether seen or unseen. If you reflect on your own life, you may notice that the most important transformations happened quietly. Healing without witnesses, growth without applause, strength built in private. These were not insignificant moments, they were foundations. Allah was teaching you how to rise without noise so that when responsibility increased, you would not collapse under attention. Quiet elevation does not mean isolation forever. It means preparation first. When the time is right, visibility comes naturally, without force, without chasing, without compromise. Ibn Arabi taught that when Allah elevates someone properly, doors open without resistance. Respect appears without demand. Influence grows without announcement. If you are in a phase where your efforts feel unseen, your progress unnoticed, and your journey misunderstood, do not rush to change this. According to Ibn Arabi, Allah may be protecting you from attention before you are ready to carry its weight. What is meant to last does not need noise to begin. Rise quietly. Grow steadily. Let alignment replace announcement. Because what Allah elevates in silence stands firm when the world finally notices. 12. When the shift finally comes, it feels calm, not chaotic. According to Ibn Arabi, one of the clearest signs that Allah's work is complete is not excitement, speed, or emotional highs. It is calm. The world teaches that change must feel dramatic, that breakthroughs arrive loudly, that success is chaotic and overwhelming. Ibn Arabi taught the opposite. When Allah changes something at the right time, it settles into your life naturally. There is no panic, no rush, no fear, only alignment. Many people expect the shift to feel explosive. They imagine sudden movement, emotional intensity, or instant certainty. But Ibn Arabi explained that real divine shifts feel steady because the soul was already prepared in advance. The waiting shaped you. The silence disciplined you. The delays matured you. So when the moment finally arrives, it does not shock you, it fits you. This is why some people feel strangely calm when something they prayed for finally happens. There is gratitude, yes, but no desperation, no disbelief, no chaos. The soul recognizes the moment because it has already lived into it. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah completes the inner transformation before revealing the outer change. When the inner work is finished, the outer shift feels familiar, not foreign. Another reason the shift feels calm is because attachment has been purified. Earlier, you may have needed this outcome to feel worthy, safe, or complete. But through delay and silence, those needs were removed. The heart learned to stand without guarantees. So when the blessing arrives, it no longer controls your peace. You receive it with gratitude, not dependence. This is maturity. Ibn Arabi also taught that chaos accompanies forced timing, not divine timing. When people rush outcomes, they receive blessings without stability. Anxiety replaces peace. Fear replaces gratitude. But when Allah opens doors at the correct moment, effort feels light. Decisions feel clear. Movement feels guided. The soul is not dragged forward, it is carried. This is also why the final stage often feels quiet. There is no urge to announce, no need to explain, no desire to prove anything. Ibn Arabi explained that when the heart is aligned, it does not seek witnesses, it simply walks. You no longer need validation because you are no longer uncertain. Calm is the proof. Many people fear calm because they mistake it for stagnation. But Ibn Arabi taught that calm is the highest form of readiness. When the soul is calm, it can carry responsibility without fear, success without arrogance, and hardship without collapse. Calm is not weakness, it is stability earned through experience. When the shift comes, you may notice something else. The right people appear naturally. The wrong ones fall away without drama. Opportunities align without force. Resistance fades. This is not coincidence. Ibn Arabi taught that alignment removes friction. When the inner and outer worlds match, life flows. If you are still waiting, do not assume nothing is happening. The calm you are developing right now may be the final preparation. Allah often stabilizes the heart before moving the world. Because once the world moves, the heart must remain steady. And when the change finally unfolds, you will look back and understand why it could not happen earlier. Not because Allah delayed you, but because He was protecting you. You will see that every quiet day, every confusing season, every lonely phase was shaping the calm that now carries you forward. According to Ibn Arabi, the true sign of divine timing is this: when it happens, you are not overwhelmed, you are ready. So do not fear the quiet ending of this phase. It does not mean nothing is coming. It means everything is aligned. The shift will not announce itself. It will simply arrive. And when it does, you will not panic. You will walk into it calmly, because you were prepared for it long before it appeared. If you're still here, then understand this clearly. You were never late. You were never forgotten. And you were never ignored. What you lived through was not random. The waiting was not meaningless. The silence was not empty. According to Ibn Arabi, Allah does not rush His servants into elevation. He prepares them until their soul is strong enough to remain humble when they rise and patient when they are tested again. Everything you endured shaped you. Every delay matured you. Every lonely season redirected your reliance back to Allah. So, as you move forward, do not look back with regret. Do not explain your journey. Do not rush your rise. Walk calmly. Stay grounded. Trust Allah completely. Because when Allah decides to elevate you, no one can delay it, no one can block it, and no one can take it away. What is coming does not need announcement. It does not need proof. It does not need permission. It will arrive quietly, and when it does, you will realize something profound. The silence was never empty. It was shaping you. This was not just a video. It was a reminder. And if it reached your heart, then remember this one final truth. This is the final phase, and Allah is about to change everything.